It's the morning star drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the morning star drive, you know.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Monday, June 6th, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what is happening on this wonderful Monday? We've got current news from around the world, the Sunday Message Word Study, and of course, 2G Talks with Eddie Kwan from San Francisco. All right, everyone, how are you, and how was your weekend? Yes, what did you do on your weekend? A lot of you guys know that I had a bunch of birthday parties, not for myself, it's obviously for my brother. You'll see it on my Instagram, and a lot of people are like, oh, you and your brother don't look alike at all, and the answer is, we don't look alike, but one thing I've really noticed is we talk alike. I'm dead serious. I was listening to my brother, I was like, whoa, that's what I sound like. And even at that birthday party I was at, it was all family members. There was like cousins and such. And when we were eating together, it was kind of cool because like even there, like this one person there was like, oh my gosh, it's like there's like my brother's name's Wes. They're like, there's two Wesleys. Like he says when they're listening to our conversation, it's like two of us, like two of the same person talking. So I found that quite interesting. Like, wow, we really do talk with each other. And I'm gonna be honest with you. Because I've changed a lot, being in this history and stuff like that too, trying to fix myself. A lot of things we look at and we're trying to change, and I can see my old self through him. I really can. Like someone like when we discuss, like it's almost like we're not arguing, but it sounds like it's like, oh, and it's just like a really like bang bang, like a ping pong match of us just speaking facts to each other and trying to convince each other who's right. And when I was like, wow, that's what I was like before. And then now that I'm with him, I just kind of listen to him and I'm like, okay. And then we don't really go further. But it's kind of weird though, because I listen to him and then I don't respond as much. And then he just keeps going. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, wow, is that me too? Right? Am I kind of like that? It's kind of interesting because you're raised in a certain way. And I was just looking at that like, wow, that's really, really interesting just to see like people even saying that we sound alike, like we the same way of speaking and such. But obviously I'm a better speaker. I just had to say that. It was so weird because we're at the restaurant and me and my brother are only 15 months apart. Right? We're only 15 months apart, and my brother straight up is like, the waitress comes and he says to the waitress, hey, who do you think looks younger? And then she was like, oh, I don't, and I looked at her and I said, hey, don't worry. If you give us the answer, we'll give you more tips. She's like, okay. And then she says, she pointed at me and says, oh, you look like the younger one. I'm like, yep, that's exactly right. But honestly, think about it. We're only 15 months apart, which means it's so close. So I wouldn't really care if she even said the opposite. Actually, our hairdresser, my brother introduced me to our stylist, and she thought I was older. And what did she say? Because she said I was more mature, and I was like, no, that's probably not the case. I'm probably not more mature than my brother. But either way, I had a really, really fun time on the weekend. Guys, comment below. What'd you guys do on the weekend? Is there anything fun, anything cool, exciting? Or, what was the basic stuff that you did, spending time with your family? Anything cool happened or inspiring happened with you and your children or whatnot? But I had a really, really good time more than anything else. But yeah. So I'm sure everyone enjoyed your weekend, and I'm sure rest, relaxation, receiving grace and fire from the Sunday message. But it's Monday again. It's that time to restart another amazing week together with the Lord, and we can start it today by putting the words of God into action. Of course, what is this week's message? It is realize what God has done. Very, very thought-provoking and very, I looked at this like, wow, that's really, really, like, to consciously realize about what God is doing in your life. And then there's the primary or the preparation and then the reality, right? So I was like to that like, oh, that's really interesting. It's going to be a little bit hard to put into action because it's about effort to realize. It's not the realization itself. It is the effort you put in to realize, or you may never know how God works in your life. So very, very interesting thing. So I look forward to the word study today. Remember last week we had the comment from Patreon about the song of choice, and it was really good last week. It's not even a week. I think it's been 2 weeks now, right? Almost 2 weeks, and I think I'm going to make a decision. I've made a decision of how we're going to go forth with the song of choice. And I really appreciate everyone who's commented on the song of choice. And I really thought that it was good to see both sides. And everyone, which is really, I was inspired by, I can see that point. I can see that side too. And that's the thing that I think was the most inspiring for me is even the guy on Patreon was like, this is what I feel. However, I do want to learn about the other side, which I thought was really, really mature and really good. And then on the flip side, the other people are saying, well, what about this and what about this? But I do see the point of the person on Patreon. So when I looked at that, I was like, yeah, I really like it. And the reason why I made my decision is because of how mature the audience is, in the sense of they see both sides. So when I look at that, I'm like, oh, wow. So people aren't, with an audience like this, it's not like people are getting super affected. And of course, it's not like we're playing these raunchy songs for the song of choice for the day, right? And I have made my decision, and I thought, we're going to keep the song of choice. Mainly, and one of the things I really feel comfortable about is because of the maturity of the audience. It's really mature. Everyone's looking at both sides, and people all said, yeah, and if you're not comfortable with the song of choice, you could just skip it. And for me, I'm like, yeah, that's fine too, right? People have a choice. They don't have to listen to the whole podcast. The average, like even last week's average time of listening was like a little less than 30 minutes. Right? So people pick and choose the parts they like. And, for me, it's not going to be like, oh my gosh, why don't they listen to the very end? Even on my YouTube, on my Espresso with Sky channel, like the average is like 55 to 60% is listened to. Right? People skip some parts, and it's understandable. I don't expect people to listen to the whole thing. Right. So I that's why I made my choice. And of course, even for this podcast, we play 7 songs every day. 3 of them are member music. 3 of them are praise songs. So 1 out of 7 is kind of worldly. Right. And I want to put that as even God rested on the 7th day. So on the 7th song, we'll rest from spiritual music, and we'll put something a little bit more physical. Oh, that sounds so dumb, but I just had to put something in there to lighten the thoughts about this. So we're going to keep it like this for now. And of course, our format will continue to change and grow as time goes on. Looking forward to new ideas about what else you guys want to hear too, right? Oh, this is what happened yesterday. I got my first persecution on my TikTok channel. I'm not sure who it is. I was looking at their TikTok, and it was basically someone made that TikTok account, and it's got 0 followers, 0 everything else, and it's just like a burner account someone's using to, so they don't want to expose who they are. So I thought it was quite I don't know. Yeah, it just didn't seem very mature. If you're going to say something like that, you be open about who you are, right? So, for me, it's a sign that I'm getting bigger, right? There's about 1,100 people on TikTok, which is fine with me. And when I looked at that, I was like, yeah, that's kind of cool. So, it was kind of weird, though, because they wrote one comment, like, they talked about Sunseam and, like, the allegations and stuff like that. Oh, he's this offender. So then I just erased it, right? Then I checked, like, 30-40 minutes later, and then there's like 10 comments from different videos, and they're like, oh, how dare you erase me, kind of thing. I was like, how? You think you just erase me? And I was like, yeah, like, why can't I erase you? That's my TikTok channel. Like, what's the deal, right? So in my head, I'm just like, I'm not going to respond to this. So I just basically, there's a filter on your comments in TikTok, and you can just make sure that any words that have like any keywords in a comment cannot be posted, right? So, I know that these people are all going to be putting up like, rapist, or, they're going to put stuff like Sunseam's name, right? And Providence and stuff. I just put those as the keywords to never go on, like as my keywords. So from that point on, nothing came out. And I blocked the person. But even if someone else starts to write about it, it won't even show up on the TikTok. So I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to, You know what I find really interesting about social media and why it's really toxic? It's almost like it makes people feel like their opinions are that important. Like people have to listen or have to do according to what they say. When you look at when you look at TikTok and social media, Instagram and stuff, people are going to like things that they like. So basically, they're in this echo chamber of just wanting to support people that sound like them, right? So then all of a sudden, this person who's a nobody, right, gets like 1,000 likes or whatever it is. Then what's going to happen? Then they're going to feel like their voice is even more important, and then they're going to go off and start like talking to people like they're like this really, really important person. Right? And then they'll go on hate on other people, and they just feel so empowered by 1,000 likes or 10,000 likes, when a lot of times it's bots doing it too, right? So when I looked at this, I was like, yeah, like no one has to listen to you, and you shouldn't force people to listen to it. It's kind of like what we talked about with the Song of Choice. Like no one has to listen to it, right? No one has to listen. No one has to listen to your comment. Like, don't you think that's kind of like the hubris? Like the arrogance is like, oh, you erased me? Kind of like, all right, yeah, I don't even know you. And you're this anonymous person that just made this burner account. Why would I want to keep you on my channel when I'm trying to do a positive channel more than anything else? And like, even when I'm on YouTube, some people are like really like crazy. Like there's one person on my YouTube channel, Espresso with Sky. The name is Nina Ballerina. This person straight up thinks they're God, right? They say, you fool. Oh, you are a Judas or this. Like there's another guy that, wrote kind of offensive stuff. And I said, hey, I'm trying to keep it positive here. And the person would apologize right away. But this other person was straight up, I'm talking for God. I'm this. I'm just like, wow, these people really like, I basically told them, you know what? You should just go and make your own YouTube channel. If you do that, then you'll have your own expression. They're like, no, I don't want to go into this worldly thing, and they're like, you and your worldly success. And I was like, I've got 3,400 people on my channel. I doubt that's considered worldly success. And on top of this, it's like, if you don't want to go into your YouTube channel and do your own thing, then why would you like try to work off the back of my success and then just start commenting on every single person's thing, saying that they're wrong, that God is not with them and stuff? It was really weird. Like there are some crazy people out there, but I respond to it because I enjoy it. I'm just like, oh, cool. Oh, I respect your opinion. Oh, this is not my opinion. This is the words of God. I'm just like, good. Oh my gosh. It's guys, if you want some entertainment, go ahead, check out in some of the comments there. Some of the stuff is really crazy. Yeah. But either way, I enjoyed that time. So yes, I did get some persecution out there too, which is, either way, I enjoyed it. I'm not really bothered by it that much. Okay, so yeah, we are growing our YouTube channel because now we're getting persecution. TikTok, we got Instagram, YouTube, and all that stuff like that, stuff like this. So I hope you guys enjoy that also. Sunday edition, we did not have one this week. It was pretty crazy for me with all the birthdays and stuff that were going on with my dad. My dad had 2 parties. My brother had 2 parties, all within a week. And then 2 other friends had parties too. So that is my fault. I will make sure we'll get one up by next week for sure. Okay. All right. So big shout outs. I got shout outs out there. We got Tony and Maria from Texas, Felix in Malaysia, and Bridget in Taiwan. Super grateful for your support on Patreon. Everyone out there for believing and supporting in this channel. Yes, we're not going to be the hugest channel, and I'm okay with it. I really, really am. To get all this stuff out for at least members to use to show their, like, the thing I was really inspired, when I went to Texas too, people would be showing my videos to newcomers just to prepare them for something. And I was like, perfect. Like, it's working and I like it. People from Korea call me, from Australia call me. And even that in itself is enough. It's worth just becoming this huge YouTuber with like 10 million followers. Like, no, for me, as long as it helps the history, it's going to be my residual spiritual income. It's going to be out there all the time. It's going to be residual spiritual income where people can constantly use it. So it's almost like I'm making spiritual money without even doing anything. So I'm thinking to myself, I just got to record a ton of stuff, put up on YouTube, and let people use it as much as they want. And that would be my spiritual residual income. But yeah, that's what I was thinking. But if you want to support us too, go check out the Patreon link in the description. If you're on SoundCloud, click the blue button on the homepage. It is a crowdfunding site that you can support the Morning Star Drive and Espresso with Sky at just $3 a month. And at the moment, we have lecture training videos, Monday Bible studies, word studies too. Go check it out. And for those of you who just want to support, go ahead and do it. It's either, that's a good place to do it if you guys want to support. All right. So let's move on to some member music going on from around the world. So let's start off with Juice Star Aiden Verity from New Zealand with Busy Bee. I really, really like this song, but the content itself, listen to the song, is really, really good. That one I like. Renee Lai from Taiwan with How Far I'll Go from the Moana soundtrack. And that's going to be in Chinese, so that's kind of cool. And last but not least, we have Amatsu Sora from Japan. And that song is from John Legend, a cover of All of Me.
The Babylon bee is too busy to cry, buzzing away, looking for a flower to duck and hide, a worker or a queen. Sometimes I feel like it's the same thing, a princess asleep on a pea, put off by the smallest of sufferings, but I'm still working on me. If I'm honest, I feel so strange, a fish without water, a cranium without a brain, looking so good for the cameras, but feeling so very average. Where else can I go? There's only one river where living water flows. I already know the answer, the problem is throwing my own hope. When I'm in the water and on the boat, both the following sheep and also the goat. I'm in the water and on the boat, both the following sheep and also the goat. Duck and hide. If I'm honest, I like routine, like to go swimming and slip in cups of tea, like seeing blanks in my schedule and filling them with my own woes. Now I'm overthrown and all around me are the people who can't do wrong. I smile and try to let it go. The problem is giving myself hope. I need to find a mountain where I can scream. I need a place to do my own thing. I need a cave where I can sing and it's funny. There's no one to judge me and I can try this way or that. I don't have to worry about falling flat. But there's work to do. Is this even work too? Who can decide? Is it me? Is it you? Is it God? How far would I go if I could? I go far slower than I should. I'm only as good as how much I produce. Squeeze on my brain and pour out the juice. As much as I grind my nose in the ground, but nobody knows, they don't notice I'm down. I haven't been busy enough. I'm floating too far, too far. I'm in the water and on the boat, both the following sheep and also the goat. I'm in the water and on the boat, both the following sheep and also the goat. Eyes are looking over my shoulder. There's all my next steps, gets colder. Eyes are looking over my shoulder. There's all my next steps. Crumbling bees, too busy to cry, buzzing away, looking for a flower to tuck and hide, a worker or a queen. Sometimes I feel like it's the same thing, a princess asleep on a pea, poured off by the swells of sufferings, but I'm still working on me.
我心中有一个无尽的海洋，没有尽头的地方，那里永远有阳光。不要完成别人给的梦想，我有自己专属脸庞，从我中学会成长。每一个转弯，每一个路段，每一次希望，每一次失望，不管多困难，有什么地方是我不能闯。我听见地平线那一边呼唤我，不用知道终点多远，乘着风，迎着浪，仰着帆，不是疯狂，因为信仰。人生是一场考验坚强的流浪。虽然留在原地十分安全，天堂里面没有悲伤，但我会失去幻想。虽然能和别人一模一样，会有相同的赞赏，但我有定制的主张。每一个转弯，每一个路段，每一次希望，每一次失望，不管多困难，有什么地方是我不能闯。我听见地平线那一边呼唤我，不用知道终点多远，乘着风，迎着浪，拥着帆，不是疯狂，因为信仰。越过了黑夜，会遇见梦想。我听见地平线那一边呼唤我，不用知道终点多远，乘着风，迎着浪，拥着帆，不是疯狂，因为信仰，终点在我。
What would I do without your smart mouth? Draw on me and you kicking me out. You got my head spinning, no kidding, I can't pin you down. What's going on with that beautiful mind? I'm your magical mystery ride, and I'm so dizzy to not hit me, but I'll be alright. My head under water, but I'm breathing fine. You're crazy and I'm out of my mind, 'cause all of me loves all of you. Love your curves and all your edges, all your perfect imperfections. Give your all to me, I give my all to you. You're my end and my beginning, even when I lose the win, 'cause I give you all of me. you give me all of you. Oh. How many times do I have to tell you? Even when you're crying, you're beautiful too. The world is breathing you down. I'm alone through every mood. You're my downfall, you're my muse, my worst distraction, my rhythm and blues. I can't stop sitting, it's breathing in my head for you. My hair's underwater, but I'm breathing fine. You're crazy and I'm out of my mind. 'Cause all of me loves all of you. Love your curves and all your edges, all your perfect imperfections. Give your all to me, I'll give my all to you. You're my end and my beginning, even when I lose the win. 'Cause I give you all of me, and you give me all of you. I'll give you all of you. Curves on the table with both showing hurt. Risking your arms, oh it's hard. 'Cause all of me loves all of you. Rub your curves and on your edges, all your perfect imperfections. Give your all to me, I give my all to you. You're my end and my beginning, even when I lose the win. 'Cause I give you all of me, and you give me all of you. I'll give you all of me, and you give me all of you. Oh.
And that was a classic. That is All of Me from John Legend. Well, it's not really a classic because that's still pretty recent, but a classic for a lot of people who are a lot younger. But for myself, it's not a classic actually, but it's a very good song. John Legend, covered by Amatsu Sora from Japan. Before that, How Far I'll Go from the Moana soundtrack. That is Renee Lai from Taiwan. And of course, featured artist of the day, Justar Eden Verdi from New Zealand with Busy Bee. All right. So let's get into news going on around the world. And of course, like we say every single day, what are the 3 reasons we got to remind ourselves each and every day? Number 1 is see what God is doing in the world. Number 2, see the things you need to report and pray about. And last but not least, to comfort God's heart with some of the terrible things that are happening. Okay. So let's get into the updates of the Russia-Ukraine crisis. What is happening lately? We see that Putin is now vowing to hit new targets if the West sends weapons to the Ukraine. Russia will expand the list of targets it will attack in Ukraine if Western countries send them long-range weapons, President Vladimir Putin says. The warning came as explosions shook parts of Kyiv on Sunday in the first assault on the capital city for weeks. Russia says it hit tanks supplied by European countries. Ukraine says it was a railway repair plant. The capital has seen little shelling in recent months after Russia refocused its efforts on the Donbas region, as Russia makes slow but steady progress on the ground there, hundreds of kilometers to the east. Several countries have pledged to send advanced weapons to Kyiv. Now, most recently, the U.S. announced it was sending the M142 high-mobility artillery rocket system, which is called HIMARS, which is composed of precision-guided missiles that can target as far as 70 kilometers away, far further than the artillery Ukraine currently possesses. White House officials say they agreed to provide the rockets only after gaining assurances from President Zelensky that the weapons would not be used to attack targets inside Russia. The package also includes helicopters, anti-tank weapons, tactical vehicles, and spare parts. Germany also promised to send its most modern systems, the Iris-T, to enable Ukraine to defend an entire city against Russian air attacks. In an interview on Russian state TV on Sunday, Mr. Putin said, "In general, all this fuss about additional arms supplies, in my opinion, has only one goal: to stretch the armed conflict as long as possible." The Russian leader said what the U.S. was supplying weapons was nothing new, but he warned against sending missiles with longer ranges, and if they are supplied, they will draw appropriate conclusions from this and use other weapons which they have enough of to strike at these targets that they are not striking at the moment. So for its part, Ukraine's deputy defense minister asked Western countries to keep a steady supply of weapons to help the country defeat Russia. And some of the fiercest fighting is currently in the city of Severodonetsk. And Ukrainian forces were mounting a strong resistance there, and the situation was very dynamic, and capturing the city would deliver the Luhansk region to Russian forces and their local separatist allies, which also control much of neighboring Donetsk. Now, on Saturday, Luhansk governor said Ukrainian forces were still holding on to Severodonetsk, but were awaiting precision weapons donated by Western allies. Tens of thousands of people have been killed and millions forced to flee their homes since Russia launched an invasion in Ukraine on February 24th, despite diplomatic efforts to bring about a ceasefire. In other developments in the Ukraine, this crisis, France's President Emmanuel Macron provoked anger from Kyiv after suggesting that Ukraine and the West should avoid humiliating Russia in the war. The Russian military said it had shot down a Ukrainian military transport plane carrying weapons near the Black Sea port of Odessa on Saturday, and Russia continued heavy shelling of Mykolaiv, a key port city on the approaches to Odessa, the BBC has reported. A major fire also engulfed a wooden church in Donetsk region, and Ukraine blamed Russian shelling, which Russia denied, instead blaming it on retreating Ukrainian troops. All right, so that is kind of the news going on when it comes to Russia and the Ukraine. Let's now go over to some other parts of the world. We'll start with Bangladesh. Right, in Bangladesh, there's a big fire, and over 40 people were killed, hundreds injured in a depot blast. And like I said about this last week, yes, we have terrible things that happen in America and Canada and such, and we'll see these devastating these shootings and such, where 20 people killed here, 10 people, 5 people. But this is a fire. Like, these are countries that are not as well off, and they don't have as good rules and like a big infrastructure. And like in this one fire, there are already double the people killed than there were in the shooting in Texas last week. Right? Over 40 people killed, hundreds injured in depot blast. A fire and a huge explosion have killed at least 49 people and injured hundreds more at a storage depot near the city of Chittagong, Bangladesh. Hundreds of people had arrived to tackle the fire when a number of shipping containers exploded at the site in Sitakunda. It is thought that chemicals were stored in some of the containers. Industrial fires are common in Bangladesh and are often blamed on poor safety regulations. Many of the injured are said to be in critical condition, and the number of people killed is expected to rise. Hospitals in the area overwhelmed, crowds of people waiting in hallways for treatment. Medics have appealed for blood donations, and some of the injured have been airlifted to the capital, Dhaka. The fire broke out at around 9 p.m. local time on Saturday, and hundreds of firefighters, police, and volunteers quickly arrived on the scene. Now, as they tried to extinguish the blaze, huge explosion rocked the site, engulfing many of the rescuers in flames and throwing debris and people into the air. Volunteers, some wearing only sandals on their feet, were just continuing to bring bodies from the smoldering wreckage on Sunday morning, but this was just a terrible scene to see. At least 5 firefighters were killed in the blast and several more were injured. Many people are still missing, including journalists who were reporting on the fire before the explosion. The blast was so large, it was heard several kilometers away and shattered the windows of nearby buildings. One local shopkeeper told reporters that a piece of debris had flown half a kilometer and landed in his pond. He described seeing fireballs falling like rain after the explosion, and many people in Bangladesh are comparing the explosion to the blast that hit Beirut in 2020. right? And he said people have reported hearing the blast from 30 to 40 kilometers in that blast. But firefighters were still struggling to put out the fire on Sunday with continued explosions making it more difficult. The Army has deployed sandbags to prevent chemicals flowing into the Indian Ocean, and around 4,000 containers were stored at the depot in Sitaikunda, which is 40 kilometers from Chittagong, Bangladesh's main seaport and second largest city. So Sitaikunda kind of acts as a transit point for goods traveling through the port. A regional government official said the depot contained millions of dollars of garments waiting to be exported to Western retailers. Bangladesh is a major supplier of clothing to the West and has prospered over the past decade to become the world's second largest exporter of garments. But safety regulations are often ignored or poorly enforced, and there have been several large fires and other incidents at factories in recent years. Even in the newspaper, in the Dhaka Tribune over there, they published a list of like 12 industrial disasters, including fires, building collapses, chemical leaks, and it's killed over 1,000 people since 2005. So that's pretty incredible and a sad thing that we should really pray about, because you got to think about what God is looking at when he sees the situation, because a lot of it has to do with like human responsibility, safety regulations that are not being kept and such, right? So that is Bangladesh. I believe that's in Pakistan, right? Let's move over to the last news is, do you remember last week we talked about there was a mine blast in Colombia, and they're trying to rescue the like 30 people that were trapped there, something along that line, right? So yeah, either way. So we're going to kind of do a report on this, but I was just checking my phone to see what country it was. Bangladesh is actually the country itself. It shows you how much I know about geography. Yeah, Bangladesh is Bangladesh. Dhaka is the capital of Bangladesh. Either way. So learning a new thing each and every day. In Colombia, 9 coal miners have died. Right, so it was since last Monday. We reported this on Friday also, but since over the weekend, 9 coal miners have died and 6 remain trapped underground after an explosion in a coal mine in Colombia occurred, right? So the explosion near the northern town of El Zulia on Monday was caused by a buildup of gas, which caused a fire and the collapse of a tunnel, trapping the miners, officials said. The surviving miners have been trapped underground for 6 days. Families have been waiting desperately for news as rescue efforts continue. Rescue work was initially hampered by the buildup of gas as well as heavy rains, but some 70 rescuers are now working against the clock to find the remaining miners. Engineers have also been working to ventilate the shafts, officials said. And unlike many other Colombian mines, this mine was actually operating legally. It was closed in 2021 because of high concentration of gases, but had been given the go-ahead to reopen on May 19th, according to Regional Mining Secretary John Olivares. Now, mining accidents are not uncommon in Colombia, with almost 150 deaths recorded in just 2021. Okay, so that's 15 people right there. Let's hope that the remaining 9 are going to be okay. Was it the remaining 9 or the remaining 6? It was 9 have died and 6 remain trapped. So we got 6 more. Let's hope that there are survivors. All right. So that is the top 3 news around the world. Hope it's something that you guys benefit from. You can pray about and think about what's going on around the world besides your country. We're going to move into some sporting news. What is happening around the world when it comes to sports? We'll start off with some NHL playoffs we missed over the weekend. It was game 2 for the Eastern Conference Finals. The New York Rangers beat the Tampa Bay Game 2, the New York Rangers beat the Tampa Bay Lightning 3-2. Tampa Bay being the reigning champions. They do have another game tonight, but basically, even though it's 2-0, it's not a big deal because this is a saying that they always say when it comes to any playoffs, right? When it's a series, like best of 7, the series does not start until the home team loses. Right, that's when their series really begins, okay? Also, it was Game 3 last night. It was my brother's birthday. We watched it together. It was Colorado versus Edmonton, Game 3. Colorado won the first 2 games, which means we're back in Edmonton, and they have to win, right? Because remember, we talked about this before. No team has ever come back from 3-0. So Edmonton has to win. Colorado defeated them 4-2, sadly. Now they are down 3-0. So the chances, if you look at history, there's a 0% chance. They could make history, But at the moment, for like 70 years, whatever it is, no one has ever come back from 3-0. So that is the history is not on the side of the Edmonton Oilers. In tennis news, great French Open finals. It was Rafael Nadal versus Casper Ruud. It wasn't even close. It was 3-0. It was like 6-3, 6-2, 6-0. It wasn't even close, which means Nadal improves to 14-0 in French Open finals. This is his 14th French Open. No one even comes close to him. His first championship was 17 years ago, which means what? Which means that, of course, there wasn't one last year because of the pandemic, which means there have been 16 French Opens, and Nadal has won 14 of them since 2005, which is ridiculous. Now he has 22 Grand Slams, which is a record, 2 more than Djokovic and Federer, and he won 2 days after his 36th birthday, so he is incredible when it comes to the French Open. Last but not least, we have one huge match that came up in boxing. It was for the undisputed lightweight championship. It was George Kambosos Jr. from Australia. He has 3 belts, and Devin Haney has the 1 belt. And basically, whoever wins gets to unify all the belts together. Devin Haney from America, only 23 years old. What's really interesting about this fight was Kambosos was supposed to originally supposed to fight someone named Lomachenko from the Ukraine, and he canceled the fight. Do you know why he canceled it? Because he is fighting in the war in the Ukraine. This boxer's fighting in the war. And he refused to come back to fight. Even though he got permission to come back to fight in this boxing contest, he said, no, I'm going to fight for my country. So that is incredible. Just this person, he knows what's more important. He's got the money. He's got all the things he needs. And it's basically all about him. He said no for this championship fight. And he decided to stay in the Ukraine to fight against Russia. So, in the end, who won? It was Devin Haney, the 23-year-old, 4-inch reach advantage, and he just jabbed out on Kambosos, and he now becomes the first undisputed lightweight champion since Pernell Whitaker did it in 1990. So it's been like how many years? Like 32 years since that's happened, but here we have it. 23-year-old Devin Haney is now the undisputed lightweight champion in boxing. He's got all 4. Is it 4 or 5? He's got 5 belts. The system in boxing is really weird. So, yeah, there's 5 belts. But either way, that is so that's what's going on with the news in sports and current news from around the world. Hope you guys really enjoyed that, which means it's time for the golden time. Yes, it is a time of praise and worship to the Holy Trinity. Hope you guys will really enjoy this as usual. And as God is watching us, he's looking forward to this praise and worship. We're going to start off with I've Come Back, I've Run. And then we'll do that new song that just came out on the English IETT. That is With the Truth. I really like this song. And last but not least, we have a special song from Dr. Zinni over there in Canada. She wrote and produced this song. It's called Lord You. All right? So as one body of the Morning Star Drive, let's spend this time giving praise, honor, and glory to the Holy Trinity.
I'll come back, I will surely come. I'll return back to my hometown, to God's heavenly temple. This God promised the Spirit to brothers me, and as they said, I'll surely come back. I have run for heaven's will, and today for the will. I have run once again. God and the Spirit see me and rejoice. They are glad looking at this history of love. They're filled with joy. satisfy. They're thrilled, they are completely satisfied. I'm running once again today. Onwards I've run, and as the body of God, moved by the Holy Spirit, on her wings I flew. I have run endlessly, living in providence. I've lived for the will, I've lived for heaven's will. God and the Holy Spirit looked at me. From heaven they looked at me, and together they ran by my side. Ever brilliant, they have run and run right by my side, so filled with joy, until the sun set, till the moon rose and the stars shone deep into the night. God and the Holy Spirit looked at me. From heaven they looked at me, and together they ran by my side. Ever brilliant, they have run and run right by my side, so filled with joy, until the sun set, till the moon rose and the stars shone deep into the night.
The light of truth is shining on me. I see my spirit's face shining so bright. The light of truth is renewing my heart. It's guiding me towards blessings and grace. This is the only path, and I'm surely on it. I see God waiting for me at the end. green light shines on the light of truth has conquered the world, and every other word is put to rest. The light of truth fulfilled history. The greatest will of God has been fulfilled. This is the only path, and I'm surely on it. I see God waiting for me at the end. All I've gained, I have gained through the truth. Everlasting life, everlasting love. All I've gained, I have gained through the truth. Rapture of my spirit, my life as a bride. Jehovah's great light, His great light shines on me. His shining light, Jehovah's great glory shines so bright. His glory shines eternally. Jehovah's great light shines so bright. His brilliant eternal light. Jehovah's great glory shines down.
Even if all disappears, God's perfect will lasts eternally. Jehovah's glorious light shines in this land, and we finally see that our dreams are fulfilled. Now we will shine for eternity, lighting the world with the truth. With the word that we preach, the word makes everything possible. A happy future is possible, fixate characters possible. Now we will rapture impossibly high. We have gained everything, this path of truth. Always the word of truth, eternal word of truth.
We can do anything through truth. With the word we can win for sure. God's word flows on without end. So as we act, we will take flight and see miracles. All I've gained, I have gained through the truth. Everlasting life, everlasting love. All I've gained, I have gained through the truth. Rapture of my spirit, my life as a bride. All I've gained, I have gained through the truth. Everlasting life, everlasting love. All I've gained, I have gained through the truth. Rapture of my spirit, my life as a through the winter snow and rain. When the coldness hits your face. Ooh, when you're racing against the wind. Pray the storm will go away. Then you whisper your word. Your hands part the clouds. Your bright rays of hope break through the darkest shade. You light up the dark, set warmth to the cold, put an end to the rain, the sins you wash away. How the world's swept up in pain. How the world's condemned by sin. Ooh, how the clouds are dark and gray. And our hearts are bound in chains. Then you whisper your word. Your hands part the clouds. Your bright rays of hope break through the darkest shade. You light up the dark, set warmth to the cold, put an end to the rain, the sins you wash away. Though the illness fills the air, we'll have to not
was Dr. Zinni over there in Canada. I hope you guys really, really enjoyed that. That song is produced and written by her. That song is called Lord You. All right. Before that was With the Truth. And of course, I've come back. I've run. I really hope that all of us here just really enjoyed that time of praise and worship to the Holy Trinity, and that it will really prepare our hearts for this next section. Of course, really, really good one that a lot of people look forward to, which is the word study. Yes, it is time for the Sunday message word study, and I hope that all of us will get our minds just really focused on this week's message. And of course, this week's message, what does Sunseam say? Don't just read it once. Don't just listen to it once. You have to read it again. You have to question. You have to realize from it. And I think this is why it's important that all of us here even have this word section in this podcast, because this is what gets us deeper into it. This is what helps us to realize what's going on, okay? So don't just read it once. Don't just listen to it once. You've got to study it more than anything else, all right? So let's start off with the complete Testament scripture for this week. It says, you can realize what you yourself have done only when you try to realize. God took action secretly through you because there was a will of God. However, you do not know his will even after you did it. Therefore, don't just wonder why you took action in that way, but ask and petition to God so that you may realize. Then at that time, God will help you realize why you did that. So it's a really interesting, very, putting this one into action. There's two parts to it. Number one is taking action, because if you don't take action, you're not going to wonder what you just did, right? And the second part is understanding and realizing why you did that, which I think is also a very important thing. Okay, so this week's message, and this, I was listening to, of course, I was listening to a preacher, and one thing they brought up was when Sunseam says, what's the one word that describes me? When Sunseam asked people, and the answer was effort. And this is the ultimate thing that separates Sunseam from other people, is other people will just complain, or people will just stop what they're doing, but just Sunseam puts in maximum effort until it actually happens, right? And that would be the biggest difference in change between Sunseam and almost every other person in the world, okay? So let's take a look at this week's Sunday message and what effort are we going to put in. Now, one of the things that we do, I do think is a very interesting. This week's message reminds me of those times when, let me give an example, when you realize what God did through you, right? And this one's a little bit easier for us because someone else will tell you why. But it kind of reminds me of a situation like, haven't you guys had that time before where you don't know why? You're not sitting there like all of a sudden you're like, oh, God inspired me, so I'm gonna buy you some food. Hallelujah. Right? It's not like you're inspired by it. You're just kind of like, hey man, I'll pay for your food. Right? Oh, you know what? Okay, no, I got your food. Don't worry about it. And at that moment, that person begins to tear up, or at that person, the person's so shocked. And later they come to you and said, it's so crazy. I was praying to God because I had no money, but I felt embarrassed or something. And when you bought me my lunch, I was so, I really, really thanked God. And then at that moment, you're like, whoa, God worked through me. And I didn't even know it. I didn't even know it was God's inspiration, but it's so crazy that you did something not knowing the situation at all. And this person is moved to tears. Right? And this kind of what God's saying is you got to realize what God is doing through you. And it's not remember, you have to realize doesn't mean just like, oh, God showed me something. It's more of you need to put effort in and try to realize. And don't let these things pass by, but you have to realize why things were done in a certain way, why it's happening. And then you're going to realize later what was done in connection to it. It's kind of like that. I talked to my YouTube channel just last week. There was a huge multi-car crash in Germany. And for some reason, we stopped at the rest area and we just played card games for 2 hours. And we didn't even know 2 hours went by, but it was crazy, right? So when we look at this, we're like, oh, that's so weird. And then later we're like, oh my goodness, God inspired us, right, to go there, and he kept us there with something that's really fun for us, and it was card games. It was that game that we're so interested in. And then after that, we get out, we're like, what? And you realize what the connection was, right? So what we need to do is we need to try to realize the current work, right? Realize what's happening right now in front of you so that, we'll realize how much more God will be with us later in the work. What's it for? Right? God gives us the first task. He takes action through us for the first task to make us realize about the later task. Right? And, there's tons of different things. I like the examples that Sunstein gave, but, about, what was the one he said? He said, going on a walk. Yeah, wait. What was it about? He said, going on a walk. He said, person goes on a walk, and then, do you guys remember what it was? Oh, yeah. Goes on a walk, then goes on a different path than usual. He never takes this path before. And then on that path, he meets someone who's able to resolve the problem that they have, right? So the introduction was taking the different path, and then the reality was meeting that person on that path for that reason, right? And this is why during that time, in this example, you must think, why am I going on this path? And you need to realize why you're going on this path. Then you will realize that God is helping you to meet this next person, right? So even right now, think about, what are you doing right now? Why are you listening to this podcast right now? What's the reason for it, and what's going to happen after? I'm not saying that the podcast, for some people it could be, right? If you realize why, then the next stage is going to be like, oh, I really needed this because it had the answer I needed to the next person I was talking to. This is how much God's helping us. Think about what you do today. Think about all the things. Why is that happening? Why did you do that? Then the next thing will be the realization of the next thing it's connected to, right? And the best part is, like, the thing I love the most when it comes to Sunstein's messages is when he talks about how he realized. And I think this is the best one, when he's talking about, the steps, it was really windy in Mormondong, and he's like, oh, God's steps must have a lot of branches and stuff. I better go and clean it up. And then, he goes there's flower petals piled up on the stairs, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to clean these stairs. He gets 2 other people, but he realized to himself, oh, it's close to prayer time. I wonder if I should just entrust the cleaning to these 2 people so I can go meet God and pray. But he's, kind of inspired to stay behind, and he cleaned as fast as he could. And then he went to go pray. And then while he's going to pray, a message comes to his mind. And what God said to him is like, do you think you're only meeting me at prayer time? Is that the only time we're meeting? And it's like, yeah, that's so true. Because in my head, I was thinking, I got to stop this so that I can do the next thing, right? I got to go meet God. Oh, I got to finish this so you guys can finish it and I'll go, kind of thing. He had that in his mind. But it's the false realization or the perception that you're only meeting God at prayer time. God was also with Sunstein during the cleaning and during the praying, right? It's that moment in your mind is like, you think God is only with you in the special times when you're on your knees and praying? But the realization is, no, God is always with you. And what Sunstein said is, I only paid attention to going to church because he thought going there would be meeting with God. So he thought nothing of what he was doing first. And he quickly worked as quickly as possible to go and pray. But he had to realize, right? And this is the point I really liked. Don't think that what you are doing right now as ordinary. Don't let it just pass by as coincidence. Because if you do, then you will not realize. Right? This is such a powerful point. Don't look at the things you're doing as ordinary or coincidence. It just happened. Because if you do, you're not going to realize. The Bible is telling us, right, that there's something that comes first before the reality. There's an introduction. And of course, the greatest example is John the Baptist and Jesus, right? Then you have the Old Testament that's prepping for the New Testament, and you realize about the New Testament from understanding the Old Testament, right? History repeats itself. Same with this time period we're living in right now. We need to realize about the New Testament. How did God work in the New Testament? Then realize that in this way we can fulfill this 1,000-year history. How do I know that we're going to always have difficulties and trials and tribulations? It's not going to stop. It's a part of life. And on top of it, if you're in God's history, how much is Satan going to come and get you, right? Jesus came, he had all the persecution, they kill him, he resurrects, oh, it's over. But no, you have another 60 years of persecution to the people of God. 60 years, another 60 years of it. And then there's even more persecution that goes for another 300 years. It's crazy when this is how it works. When you realize history, it makes a lot more sense to us, right? And this is why we need to be those, as Sunstein said, open up your smartphone brain, because the realizations are coming through your brain, through your thoughts, through your heart and mind. And this is why you have to keep that heart, mind, and thoughts open, be awake, understanding, you got to understand, God's going to want you to realize what you're doing right now. That smartphone has to be on, because the moment that smartphone turns off, like a lot of people don't turn off their smartphones, but one thing they do is put it on silent. If it's on silent, you will never hear that important phone call. You'll never hear that important text message that you've been waiting for. You'll just miss it, right? Because it's asleep. In the same way, too, we have to make sure that we're not kind of just going through life. Like you're just kind of going through the motions. You have to be awake. Why am I doing this? Why am I going through this? That's the great thing about being a sentient being that thinks, right? We have to be awake. That smartphone has got to be on. It's just clicking all the time. And this is when daily in our lives we'll always be calling God. Daily in our lives we're always calling the Holy Spirit, and we're connecting through the brain, heart, and thoughts. You see, God and the Holy Spirit, they're talking to us all the time, frequently through our brains, our hearts, and our thoughts, right? And, we have to realize, if they're talking to us frequently, we have to make sure that that our phones are on alert or vibration or sound, so that we just catch those things. Why is God with us? It's because he loves us. He's going to be with us all the time. And this is why we have to try to realize, right? The effort, consciously, deliberately trying to realize. And this is what it means to be awake. Open your brain and realize, right? You have to get yourself to that point. Like even Daniel, remember in Daniel chapter 12, verse 10, when Sunstein brought that up during the message, he's like, he realized because he made up his mind to realize, and then he received the answer. He made up his mind. He put in the effort to do it, right? And we have to think that way also. If we realize what God and the Holy Spirit have done, and we acknowledge, then what happens? Well, think about even for yourself. When someone realizes what you have done for them, when parents finally realize, when the kids realize what the parents have done for them finally, and they acknowledge it, parents are so happy. And I think one of the things that we're looking at is, don't leave it to, oh my gosh, remember that thing that happened last year, last month, last week? It's so late if you think about that. Imagine someone realizing that late. We need to realize it in real time, right? We got to realize it in real time, not forgetting. Realize why you came to learn the word. Realize how you came to this history. Think about, even for me, I realized oh my goodness, I thought I started Bible study, started going back to church to find a wife. But God led me there, and I realized, that's why. So if we realize, then we have to do the work until the end. Right? God has loved us. God not just loves us. He likes us. I know a lot of people that love their children but don't like them. Yeah. The Holy Spirit inspired us. Think about all those things, and it brings us to this very time right now. Right? This is something that I'm very, very, I think we should be preaching this a little bit more, because it does feel like sometimes that Providence is a merit-based place. But God is straight up. Even if you don't do anything special, let's just live loving each other till the end. That was incredible. That was so inspiring for me. Not that I don't want to do something. It's the expectation that God has on us is, no, I don't, you don't have to do anything special. It's a relationship. Special things don't happen all the time. Let's just live loving each other until the end. That's the most important thing. Is getting this diamond ring on the anniversary really powerful and amazing? Yeah, it is. But it's not going to define the relationship. The most important part is loving each other until the end. Even if there's nothing that special, right? Every week, this Sunday message is the introduction. And we need to realize it in our daily lives. Then God will help us. He'll help us to realize and connect us to the next thing. Right? Remember, God's not, if you can't think about like God just ending everything at giving the word. It's not going to end there. Right? God doesn't just end at giving the word. He helps us to realize the word by putting it into action so we can constantly, continuously realize from big to small things. So I hope that, this word study is great. I love it, but we need to constantly do this more and more. Like I have this word study. I have the Wednesday word study on my podcast. I do another word study every Monday nights over here with other people. And it is so important that we do more than just listen once. Right? So I really hope that a lot of us here will really have that mentality and the mindset. And this week's message is powerful. It's so short, but it was so like, wow, it made you think really deeply about what are the things I missed when it comes to doing these things. All right? So that is the word study for today, and I hope it's something that you guys you enjoyed. But even more importantly, if you have anything to comment on that, go ahead and leave a comment below of what you thought about the Sunday message. Would love to hear what you thought also. All right. So that means we're going to get into the song of choice for today, and of course every Monday I do choose a song from the Philippines because I just love their singers. They're just so talented. Right. And I picked a singer. He's he seems to be like an independent singer. He made it through YouTube, I think. His name is Rain. Right. He's also from the Philippines, and he's doing a cover from a group called Southern Border. I really like them too. And the song is called Love of My Life. So this is an independent YouTube singer. And I hope you guys enjoy this. This is Rain with Love of My Life.
Falling tears when we're together. You know the joy you bring to me. There'll be no other. We'll share as lovers, right from the heart, from my mind to your soul. I will give it to you, girl. Time stars will be bright, our bodies will move all through the night. Come take my hand, then we'll fly. Come on, baby, hear me say there'll be no other. We'll share as lovers, right from the heart, from my mind to your soul. I will give it to you, girl. My every little thing that I'm more than willing. your soul, I'll give it to you, girl. My everything that I'm more than willing, I will give to you. Forever stars from now, I promise you. Loving you is all that I can do. No one can take it away from me. Nobody but you. Forever stars from now, I promise you. Loving you is all that I can do. No one can take it away from me. Nobody but you. Forever stars from now, I promise you.
And there it is. That is Rain from the Philippines with the cover from Southern Border, Love of My Life. He is an independent YouTuber singer, I believe, right? So hope you guys really enjoyed that Filipino Monday song. If you have any, I'll leave that link in the description below, which means we're going to get into the last section for today. And of course, I'm super excited always every Monday. Eddie is always on time. He's always there sending out these episodes. He's doing a great job of it. I hope you guys can enjoy this. This is 2G Talks. He is a second gen. He is a national leader for SS. He's got connections and he's been working really hard. And I also work with him too. And I hope that you guys will enjoy it. Enjoy his topics and write comments for him too. Everyone, please welcome Eddie Kwan with 2G Talks.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another week's episode of 2G Talks. I'm very excited to be here once again. Really trying to connect bridges, right, for all of us running Providence all across the world, as well as for people of different generations, backgrounds, people who need to understand each other. Because when I really think about God's words, right, it's universal, right, and each of us can connect to it too. But yet when we live our lives, we can be disconnected to other people because, there's something that we don't understand about them. And it's oftentimes because we don't understand what people are thinking, right? Because we each have our own thoughts because of the different experiences that we go through every day. But there are ways to connect with people even if we don't understand them too. And I think this week's message is one where many people can relate to this. Right, the idea of when we're doing something in the middle of the process, whether it's for God's history or just something that we're doing for ourselves personally, whatever it might be, right? Whether it's for school or for work or something more personal, there are many times you wonder why you're doing something. Right? I think there are more times where you wonder why you're doing something than the number of times where you clearly know the exact purpose and vision for something, for doing something that might be kind of hard. And so just like the scriptures told us this week, there were definitely many times where I took action and I did something and I didn't understand why, right? Or I didn't understand what effect it had or why I had to do it. And basically what happened then is I didn't understand what God was trying to do through that action. And it wasn't until much, much later that I was able to figure out what it was. And because of that, I went through some hard times too, right? And I'm pretty sure everyone has had, similar experiences as well. But then I really thought about the other half of that thought, right? And that even though I didn't know what it is that I was doing or why I was being made to do something or why I was going through something, it always worked out better when I realized what had transpired because of that action or because of that experience. But there were many times that I didn't do something, right? Where I didn't use the time well, where I used the time wastefully, where I sat by and did nothing. And in each and every one of those cases where I didn't do something, where I didn't do anything, it never got better. Right? Some things, maybe the pain of a particularly painful experience I was going through, maybe that went away, but it never resolved as a result of doing nothing. And so I think this was such a powerful connection to the message that I had, even just by reading the scriptures, right? It wasn't by listening to the word yet, but yeah, like just sitting there doing nothing. Because there are many times, and I'm pretty sure everyone has maybe gone through at least maybe not a prolonged period, but at least a couple days where they've experienced something like this too. But sitting by and doing nothing, whatever that might entail for you, never improves on the situation, and it'll never result in an experience where after you realize what had happened, you feel like, wow, God really used this for his plan. And I guess another part of that sentence that I think all of us need to do, actually, this kind of carries over to a lot of people. Some of the people that have come back to me to talk about this are people who are taking care of children, of younger second gen themselves too. But not only that too, because I think all of us are in this position too, right? If we're an active person within God's history, then we're probably taking care of people, and we wonder, like, how should we take care of people too, right? So this isn't just for parents or for parents of second gen in particular, but all of us have people that we're in charge of, and even if we're not in charge of anyone, we at the very least have to manage ourselves. We have to evangelize ourselves, right? And so this is something that we need to help ingrain to ourselves, to the future generation, and to the people that we're taking care of too. In this idea of how to realize what it is that has happened as a result of something that God did through us, right? When we don't know, when we don't realize, and it makes it pretty simple, right? In the message, it was, you got to ask God, like ask and petition God, and ask God, what is it that this accomplished? Like, what is it that this required, and what is it that happened as a result of my doing this, or you doing this through me? And at the same time of doing that too, it's also about reflecting on the things that have transpired in our lives, right? Because the reason why you go through another cycle of not doing anything is because you forgot the things that have happened in your life up until that point too. So in life, we surely need to take action in order for things to improve, both in our physical and spiritual lives. And I think it's only something that you concretely realize as you grow older and as you take action on this too. But when sometimes when you're doing something, the question of why I'm doing this, why it becomes pertinent, is because you don't know if what you're doing will become successful, right? If you know that something is going to be successful, then even though you go through some sort of difficulty while doing it, you'll still do it, right? If you know. But many times you won't know. But I think the part that gets back to me, I always have this realization when I'm driving in the car, right? And I'm kind of trying to have a conversation with God while I'm doing that. So this happens every morning as I'm driving to work. And I'm thinking about how I'm spending my time and working and all of those things too. And there's a scripture about Solomon too, but there's also just a general idea that God is with us, right? Like, would he want you to not be successful, right? If you're working earnestly and sincerely towards this goal and towards fulfilling his history. And even if it doesn't work out in the way that you thought it would, or the way that you intended it would, if it has positive, direction, or, as long as you did what you were supposed to, it gives you the sense that, you can't really be too disappointed, right? Or you wouldn't be super disappointed. If you put everything on the line to do something and it didn't have at least the immediate effect that you were trying to have, then you know that you fulfill your responsibility and you can confidently move on to the next one. And on the flip side of that too, right, is if you know that you didn't do everything that you could have in order to make something work, and it didn't work out, then it fills you with the greater sense of I should have done more, right? Or I should have tried a little bit harder. And, in order to not be stuck with that kind of feeling, in order to not be stuck with the result that led to those kinds of thoughts, we truly need to take action. And so I don't know what it is exactly for everyone in the audience, what that'll be for this week. For me, within exactly a month, within about 29-30 days, we have the SS retreat here. Man, there's a lot of planning that we need to do for it too. And we need a lot of support from everyone too. So for those of you at home, please pray for us. And let's really make an incredible event by setting both the spiritual condition and the physical condition too. So please pray for me too. There's a lot of moving parts, and we really want to plan it well. And we want to plan exactly with this week's message in mind, where even though we don't exactly know where it is that we're going with the event, where it is that we're going with the idea and with the planning, we want to do it for God's will. And we also want to realize too exactly why. But I trust in God, because every time I've done an event like this, it's turned out for the better. Right? Even though there's so many times I was like, why would I do that? Right? Why would I do this with the SS? But every single time, right, it's worked out better. Every single time I've heard the result, single time I've heard about how an SS responded to a certain activity or a certain thing that we talked about, it's always been positive, even though I didn't know right away. And so for everyone too, whatever it is that you are doing within, God's history, as we mentioned, it doesn't even have to be about something like doing something actively, but even in terms of managing yourself, right? Your life before God, I really hope that each person here will be able to do it within God's will. And so God bless, and we'll catch you guys all on another week's episode of 2G Talks. Be able to reach a new level of history and a new level of individual growth too. God bless, and we'll see you guys next week on another episode of 2G Talks.
And there you have it. That is Eddie Kwan over there in San Francisco with 2G Talks. And it's going to be kind of cool because I will be seeing him. He's going to be visiting Vancouver next month. So I'm super happy about that. And I think I will be flying over to San Francisco also for their SS retreat. I'm excited about that too. I like kids because that's the level of my thinking. But either way, everyone, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Go ahead and leave them a comment below, or you can write them an email. That's going to be in the description. Everyone have an amazing and awesome Monday, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone,